The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he still believe that New Zealand is coming out of recession, quote, reasonably aggressively, end
The
quote?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, and let me make 3 points. The first of them is it would be worth actually reading my full quote, which actually went on to say, I think it's actually starting to come out reasonably aggressively. I then went on to say I'm more optimistic about 2011 than 2010, but nevertheless I think 2010 will be positive. That was right. Secondly, Mr Speaker, it goes to prove that I'm better at economic forecasting than the Leader of the Opposition, who at exactly the same time I was making this statement, he was predicting growth this year would be 6%, which is actually wrong. And the third, but maybe the most important point, Mr Speaker, is this, and that is that the economy has actually grown more in the last 6 months than it did in the entire last 4 years. And, Mr Speaker, that's what I define as reasonably aggressively.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order. Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. If New Zealand were coming out of recession reasonably aggressively this year, as the Prime Minister predicted, how does he explain the dramatic increase of more than 20,000 additional New Zealanders unemployed in the last quarter when he told the country that unemployment would be coming down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Unemployment is always a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator. Well, actually, the member was a Minister of Labour, and if he wants me to quote some of the statements he made when he was, I'm more than happy to. And the second point is average unemployment actually is lower, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, how is his claim that this year the country would be coming aggressively out of recession consistent with the fact that last month 2,700 people lined up for 150 jobs at the Mount Roskill New World supermarket? 2,700.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, my answer is I didn't make that statement.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, if the New Zealand economy is recovering, as the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance repeatedly claim, how does he explain the surge in business liquidations and receiverships and the record number of mortgagee sales for domestic homeowners over recent months?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, a picture speaks 1,000 words, so let's take this one. This is a sign of the economy, and this is the enormous recession that we've had. Members will note that the recession we inherited from the Labor government was actually deeper than anything we even saw in the 90s. Mr Speaker, we're a good government, but even we struggle when we have to inherit the mess we got from that previous government.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker,
Order.
if the Prime Minister is so confident that he's closing the gap with Australia and that the economy is recovering, how does he explain the comment by major construction suppliers and by major retailers in the last 24 hours that this situation today in the last couple of months is the worst that they've seen in 20 years?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, a couple of things. Firstly, one of the things the government has been doing is running an enormous cash deficit to the order of $8 to $10 billion. The vast bulk of that actually is going in things like infrastructure support. So actually, if it wasn't for the government spending so much in that area, the construction sector would be worse. Secondly, in terms of retail, I think the member might find that he's inaccurate and should go and check his facts, because retail sales are not as weak as they were 20 years ago from the last time I looked.
Mr Speaker,
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
the Prime Minister is so confident that he's closing the gaps and that he's getting the economy recovering. How does he explain, after the high level of confidence at the start of this year, that in each of the last 3 months the business surveys by the major banks in New Zealand have shown that each month confidence has gone down because of inaction by his government?
The Right Honourable
Mr Speaker,
Prime Minister.
the only thing the Leader of the Opposition is proving this afternoon is he doesn't know anything about economics. Firstly, unemployment is a lagging indicator.
Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my questions have been quite consistent and quite clear and quite straightforward, and they don't require personal abuse from the Prime Minister. They require an answer.
Order. Just ask the House to settle down a little, and I think the question was reasonably clear about how the Prime Minister would explain changes in business confidence. When someone's asked how that explains something, there's a fair bit of latitude around that, but the Prime Minister's answer should relate to that question. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, if the member thinks that's personal abuse, I should introduce him to Pete Hodgson and Trevor Mallard. Anyway,
I apologise, Honourable Member. Order. Now, I say to the National Party members on this occasion that just because they don't like the fact that a member calls a point of order is no excuse when a point of order has been called to carry on like that. And the only good fortune for them all is so many were involved that I can't pick on any one. And I'll now hear the point of order from the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
A relatively simple point of order, Mr Speaker. The member's been here for some time. He should know that when you have ruled, there is not a comment made on that rule. And, sir, I'm, in a funny way, not that unhappy because it shows the pressure's getting to
order. Order. Now, I just told members of the National Party when a point of order is being heard, they are to be silent. The fact that the member making the point of order had strayed outside standing orders with his last comment is no excuse for the error to be compounded by other members carrying on the way they just have. I tell the House it'll come to order or some members will be getting an early shower. Let me make that very clear. I will not tolerate some of the noise that was in the House yesterday. Now, having said that, the Honourable Trevor Mallard was perfectly in order with the start of his point of order. And the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, should not make those kind of comments after the Speaker has just given a ruling. However, the Honourable Member then deviated from what's allowed under points of order. I guess I have to allow that both sides on this occasion deviated equally, and therefore that's where the matter will rest. But I would ask the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, not to do that again. The question was about how the Prime Minister explained. But in fact, let me invite the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to repeat the question because it's been so long since the House heard it. The
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question to the Prime Minister is this. If the gap with Australia is closing and the economy is recovering, why is it, after high business confidence at the start of this year, in each of 3 successive business surveys, month after month, the level of confidence is going down because of inaction by his government?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, well, firstly, I don't think business would see this government as inactive. Certainly that was the flavour that came through the mood of the boardroom where David Cunliffe forgot to even turn up. So anyway, Mr Speaker, but moving right along, one of the reasons why business confidence surveys move around is they're an expectation of what activity is like. Business confidence was extremely low when we were minus 3.1%, the conditions we inherited from a Labour government, and of course they'll move around a bit, but overall business confidence is still positive.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. If the gap with Australia is closing, as he and his fellow ministers have claimed, how does he explain the fact that in the month of June the level of New Zealanders leaving for Australia was up 50% on the same period last year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, a couple of things. Just to put the member's mind at rest, the gap with Australia is definitely closing, so it's not an if. It's not an if. And if he wants to pop up for a coffee, I'll take him through the numbers if he likes, and there's a few others we can take him through. Mr Speaker, migration will move around a lot, but the last time I had a look at it, the number of people leaving for Australia under this government is about half the number that left under the Labour government, and doesn't that say it all?
Question number 3, David Garrett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is for the Attorney-General and asks, are iwi